Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Meeting of the Wahoo City Councils, Tuesday, October, that's not right. Wrong date. November 8th. Yeah. 7 o'clock p.m. Announcement of the Open Meetings Act. We have a brochure over there. More information is up at City Hall if you are interested in that. At this time, roll call.
Stuart Creechy.
Here.
Carl Warford.
Here.
Patrick Nagel.
Here.
Chris Rappel. Ryan Ideas.
Here.
Karen Booth.
Here.
Chris had an email that he would be possibly a little bit late. I had a conflict at work, I guess, so. Proclamations, there's none. Audience comments on items that are not listed on the agenda, and I believe Teresa has some announcement, I guess.
Teresa Klein, rural Saunders County. Do I need to say that? And I'm here just, as you know, about 2.5 years ago, and I've been here 3 years as of last Friday, we kicked off a branding experience, working closely together between the city, the Wahoo Community Foundation, the Chamber of Commerce, and the economic development side, Greater Wahoo. That process was sidelined by a number of things, especially COVID. And Melissa, we about 2 months ago picked tomorrow night at the Chamber fundraiser as an opportunity to release the brand, shall we say, and move forward and let things go and kind of have that happen tomorrow evening. So she had planned a couple months ago to be here to share it with those of you because we want to make sure you guys are in the know. So I offered to do that. She will be visiting with you and be able to answer your questions about the finer details of how the city will be implementing it. But this is what it looks like. It is basically a W, but it will be used by all three entities, or I could say four, between economic development and the chamber. So she will be sharing all the details you may want to know. Our process that we arrived at that, we worked with Filament Essential Services, or SOX, the folks that do provide the website, current website for the city. We put together a rebrand team. There's a couple guys here, Ryan Ideas, the Ryans were on that, as well as Dave Privet, Kevin Stewart, Josh Krieger, Catherine Nygren, Katie Oskren, and then Melissa and myself. And so those folks were really great at a number of meetings and providing a lot of input. They were selected because they covered a lot of bases in terms of different audiences and different perspectives. Ironically, when it came down to it, I was the only one that was born in Wahoo, which I think is also emblematic of our city. So it all turned out pretty cool. We're grateful for their input. Those of you who can attend tomorrow night, you'll get to see a little bit more. But I am excited to Melissa and I and everyone are really excited. We can just cut loose and start implementing this across. You will notice, thanks to Joe Wynn's team and Kevin's team, their Wahoo 150 banners will be gone as of Thursday morning. So we are moving on. But if you have any questions, I'm around, but check with Melissa when she gets back. Sound good? Pardon?
Where is this event tomorrow? I don't know anything.
Pardon?
The event tomorrow?
Event tomorrow, Chamber fundraiser, Starlight Ballroom. Give me a call if you want to come.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Dueling pianos.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
right down your line. Anybody else in the audience have comments on anything that's not on the agenda? Okay, we will move forward. The quarterly reports, the department heads here. Cody, you're first on the list. You want to present yours?
Good evening. Got a couple things to just kind of go over real quick. Not a lot exciting happening as of my last report. So tomorrow night we will hold elections for the position of fire chief. With that election, we will have a candidate chosen to bring to the council for approval and then appointment by the mayor. In December, we will hold general election for the officers of the fire department, so that will be the command staff underneath of the chief. Working on some dates for a burn. JEO has a property that is just south of the Casey's. It's the farm place there. We're going to do some training exercises at that farmstead, that whole facility. So we have a couple buildings along with the house, and then some burn piles that we can do some wildland control type stuff as well. So I'll bring that up to the membership to get some solid dates ironed out, and then we'll move forward. Wanted to wait till after harvest until we got a little bit of moisture, and I think we're about there with that. So leading into that, we did receive some much needed rain, so we've seen a decrease in our fires as far as wildland is concerned, or grasslands. But with that, we have seen an uptick in burn permits that have been written. So, you win some, you lose some. So, may see some stuff emerge from burn pits and controlled burns. Working with Melissa still on the truck bid package that you guys approved. When she returns from vacation, we should have that finished up, and then that will get emailed out to various vendors, and I'm assuming we'll also put a note in the paper. So, last report, if you guys, you'll notice we're going to put Christmas lights up on the fire station this year to try to match some of the rest of the downtown area. It's something that we haven't done in quite some time. We had a big giant box of Christmas lights up in storage that we found, and it looked like a giant ball of yarn. So we haven't done anything in the past, but this year I think we're going to move forward and put some lights up that will most likely probably stay up all year round. They'll be kind of a hidden built-in light. So try to spread a little Christmas spirit there. So that's all I have, unless any of you have any questions for me. So.
There's a whole table of lights out there. As we came in.
Is it enough to do?
There's a pile of lights out there.
We're gonna need a lot.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Grant?
Good evening. Just a few things to update you on since my last report. We are now 100% transitioned to our new billing company, One Billing Solutions out of Omaha. So we worked through all of the paperwork and everything that's required administratively to get that done. So I'm excited to report I looked at their online portal today, and they had billed all of our open accounts receivable from the previous vendor along with our current billing as well. So I'm pretty excited to see what that will bring in, hopefully in the near future, as far as the open accounts receivable that existed before the transition. So it's kind of stirred up some things that we didn't really think about. There's been an increased demand on our staff with a lot of phone calls as we kind of work through the growing pains of that, because obviously when you drop one vendor, they don't really have any obligation to help you out. So we got a lot of patients calling, asking about paying bills and stuff like that. So, but we're working through those growing pains, and hopefully in the next couple of months, we won't have any really any different things, and it'll disrupt our operation, I guess. Let's put it that way. So, call volume, we're on track still with the same volume we had last year, which was our record-breaking year by far. We're about 750 runs for the year. So that puts us on track for right around that 900 mark for the end of the year, as long as we stay steady. So that can ebb and flow, like anything else, but we seem to be staying pretty busy. So the next thing is, with all of the ARPA money that the state of Nebraska was allocated through the legislative bills and how that was dispersed, a component of that was was allocated for emergency medical services. And as of a couple weeks ago, the state has released that funding, which allocates $5 million for the replacement of equipment and $20 million for the replacement of ambulances across the state of Nebraska. So basically what that allows us to do is apply for grants. It's 100% funded up to $50,000 for equipment, 100% funded up to 150 grand for ambulances. Obviously, we just were delivered an ambulance, and unfortunately, they're not gonna retroact us within the last year to give us some reimbursement on that. But what we can capitalize is the $5 million grants available, so up to $50,000. So I'm working through right now with my team and our capital outlay plan to think about some of those things that are coming up for replacement in the next 2 to 3 years, like our stair chairs and some of our monitor devices, stuff like that are high dollar items that we can maybe go ahead and take a stab and get 50,000 to get some of that replaced. So we can pull that from our replacement schedule, so. And then lastly, I'm excited to announce that at the end of November, myself and Cody have been invited. We're officially having a kickoff meeting for the new radio system that's going to be implemented for the county. So that's all the information I have right now. But I'm hoping that a lot's going to come of that meeting, and they're prepared to give us some good news and some good information, and it'll help kind of create that rapport that we're going to have for the next 2 years as this system's built off. So, any questions for me?
What's the name of the billing company that you're using now?
One Billing Solutions. One Billing
Billing
Solutions. Yep. So, all righty. Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda, several items on here. I think most of them, we've seen this type before. Any questions?
Substantial completion of asphalt early, so everybody's happy.
Everything's settled, I believe, and taken care of, and
We'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
okay.
It's a lot of money going out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a expensive month, yeah.
Means things are getting done.
Yes,
Yeah,
it does.
right,
That's a
right.
good thing.
If there's no questions, roll call on the consent agenda.
Creachy,
Yes.
Ideas?
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes,
Raffle,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Warford.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to public hearing and associated business. Public hearing to provide an opportunity for public comment concerning an existing community development block grant project awarded to the city. This is required. Periodically, we are to have a hearing for the public to be offered a chance to ask questions or speak. So from that standpoint, we have a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody have any public in the comments? Public?
Is there currently a CDBG project going on?
There's some things going on. There's some payouts and stuff on that first page. So this continues. I'm not sure how far out it goes.
We just renewed the, for an additional 9 months at the last meeting, so I believe that will put us at September, October next year.
And then we can do another renewal
If need be.
if need be, yeah.
It was renewed due to, difficulty finding contractors to complete the work, so if it's completed in that time, then that grant would just end. We
Okay,
would be done with that portion.
okay. Otherwise, we're keeping up with contractors now, I believe, and pulling down money to settle up those. So I think everything's working all right from our standpoint. Any other?
To say the Senate program is what we're referring to.
Yeah,
right? The Senate
right.
program is our development
Yeah,
grant
right,
program.
yeah.
Gotcha.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Questions? Motion to close the public hearing, roll call.
Raffle,
Yes.
Creachy,
Yes.
Warford,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Ideas?
Yes.
Hoop.
yes.
Okay, old or tabled business, approval of the final plat for subdivision known as Wilma Ridge Edition, 38.98 acre parcel of land, more or less, located on the north half of the southwest quarter of the south half of the northwest quarter, all in section 34, township 15, range 7, 8 p.m. Saunders County, as filed by JEO Investments, Inc. There is a couple items that have been noted, at least in mine, the items that have been discussed and we have approved, and those were access to property, and that's was decided to be a waiver on that, but it'll happen when the north part of Wilmer Ridge is developed. I believe that's where we're at on that. And then, forget what the other one was. Get to it here in a minute, that I noticed anyway.
I know Melissa had sent out an email
Yeah.
explaining
Yeah.
Yeah,
some of the financing differences between
Okay.
this and the other one, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it comes out the
it's
same.
the same, yeah,
There's
Yeah.
still
yeah. That's the only things that I saw that were highlighted from where we have been in the past.
And I have been working with Melissa on both the subdivision agreement and financing agreement. The general template, to your point, Carl, is very similar to the North Islands project. The structure's a little bit different, but the intent is basically the same with respect to what the city's allowing to happen, both in terms of the type of subdivision that's being constructed, as well as the financing structure of the arrangement. There's some oddities, to your point, Jerry, with respect to the second access point, with respect to a temporary easement as you're entering off of the commercial lot. They're basically gonna allow for emergency vehicles to be able to kind of jump what would be otherwise the curb right there and get around in the event of an emergency. And so the way we're treating the outlots is a little bit different, but by and large, the development looks very similar in the way everything's structured.
So Joe, in the last meeting, we were asked to table just to bring all this up to speed, so now you feel comfortable? I mean, it looks like it's ready to go. You feel comfortable with us moving forward?
Yeah, so I mean, basically what I'm looking for is, one, are all the things that are legally required in there, and they are. And then secondarily, the negotiations between city staff primarily and JEO, the developer on the project, is everything that was discussed and agreed to in the actual document, binding on the representative parties, that sort of thing. And the answer to that's yes, it's all listed there and in there. I think the only remaining question, of course, for you guys is, you know, the deal that was negotiated, so to speak, between the staff and JEO is, are you comfortable with that? And that's what I think Melissa was trying to detail, to make sure you understand the nature of that agreement and can make an informed decision.
I know they get complicated, but I think I'll give a compliment to Melissa for getting that put together. I guess with that being said, I would make a motion to approve the.
We need 3 different approvals.
Don't we need one to take it off
Subdivision
the table
agreement to
though?
start.
Don't we
Yeah.
need something to take it off the table?
Yeah, technically, in terms of Robert's rules, it can't be voted on until there's a vote to take it off.
Motion to
the
take it off the table.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Who seconded? Okay.
Okay, a motion to take it off the table. Any questions? Roll call.
Creachy?
Yes.
Nagel?
Yes.
Rappel?
Yes.
Warford?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Ideas?
Yes.
And then we need to introduce the 3 readings, or we're just approving?
It's the final plat, so it's a motion for approval of the subdivision
Approve the
agreement.
subdivision, the contract,
Yeah, a motion to
so
approve. the
1A
subdivision.
first.
Yeah, 1A.
I would make that motion for 1A. And we're
Second.
gonna three separate
Different
votes?
motions.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and because the way we structured this is subdivision agreement first, because that's contingent on the approval of the financing, meaning if the next one doesn't get approved, the first one goes away. The second one's contingent on the final plat, so if the second one's approved, but the final one, being the final plat, isn't approved, the whole thing goes away, right?
Gotcha.
It's
Okay,
dominoes,
all 3
basically.
steps, all right.
Kind of starts focusing on what issues you might have
Yeah.
and breaks it down. So is there a second to that?
Yeah, I did it.
Any questions? Roll call on 1A, approval of subdivision agreement.
Creachy?
Yes.
Nagel?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Ideas?
Yes.
Warford?
Yes.
Rappel?
Yes.
Okay, now, 1B, approval of financing resolution for subdivision.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Again, same
The
thing.
team going here.
Yeah.
Here makes it easier.
They were on a roll.
Okay,
Sure.
gives you the opportunity to vote again.
Don't mess with perfection.
Any questions? Roll call.
Krejci?
Yes.
Nagel?
Yes.
Warford?
Yes.
Rappel?
Yes.
Ideas?
Yes.
Booth?
Yes.
Okay, and the third one, approval of final plat.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Krejci?
Yes.
Nagel?
Yes.
Ideas?
Yes.
Warford?
Yes.
Booth?
Yes.
Rappel?
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, approval of third reading of the ordinance number 2398, conditional use permit for ground level apartments in C1 downtown commercial district. I'll start, we do have some additional information that just came to the office this morning, but before we can discuss that, for the sake of the developer, or discuss the final reading, we have to take it off the table.
Correct. Or at least have a discussion about whether to take it off. the
Well,
table or
yeah.
not. Yeah.
Is there a motion to take it off the table? Now, we can put it back on the table when we get done discussing, right? Yeah.
I move to take it off the table.
I'll second.
Okay. Questions? Roll call.
Ideas?
Yes.
Booth?
Yes.
Rappel?
Yes.
Nagel?
Yes.
Warford?
Yes.
Krejci?
Yes.
Okay, so since this information came in this morning and too late to put on the agenda using the 24-hour rule, I guess, did everybody get a copy of the
Yes.
proposal? So at this point, we don't have to have a public hearing, but Travis, do you want to speak to this first, or do you prefer the developer to?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Mike, if you want to come forward and the changes that you have made, again, we can't take action on it, but we can discuss it.
Yeah, I understand. Mike Sullivan, thanks for the time. From the last meeting, it was advised to come up with improved design solutions to handle parking, the program of parking on the site, and per my request for conditional use, have apartments facing Smith Park on Beach Street. So this iteration, I apologize for getting done fast, but on 5th Street, there are parking stalls on the first floor. That is a covered parking garage, one point of access in for garage, via the garage, via the drive lane on the west side. Above that would be story 2, 3, and 4 would be apartments. On the very northeast corner of the first floor are 2 commercial bays, separate from the parking garage and separate from the residential units. And then to the south of the commercial bays are 4 residential units, 1 large 3-bedroom and 3 large 2-bedroom units, with garages attached to some garages attached to the units, some garages also independent of the residential units. So each garage is tandemly structured, just to kind of find the efficiencies of parking. This total count for units is 64 units on this property, which vets the need for 93 stalls. There's a typo on here, so I apologize about that. It should be 93 total beds. This plan parked on this property supplies 98 total parking stalls and also displays the 42 parking stalls in addition to the 98 on Beach and on 5th Street. So this is our updated plan. And again, to request the conditional use for residential units on the first floor on Beach Street only, across the street from Smith Park. We narrowed it down to 4 units to focus on family sizes. These will be 0 entry units, and ADA as well for most, if not all of them, just to better accompany the downtown area, again, across the street from the senior center to the south, a block away from the Civic Center as well, so. The outside facade will be relatively the same from what was presented in previous, so no large changes to note there. The parking garage will have glass windows, they just won't be functional windows. They will be, look just like the second floor, third floor, et cetera. So it'll be well-designed, well laid out, covered parking garage, and that'll be reserved just for the residents. Any questions?
What's the dimensions of the,
Sorry, what was your question?
dimensions of the commercial properties?
Yeah, so there's 2 different sizes. The one in the northeast corner is just shy of 2,000 square feet, 1,927 square feet. And then the smaller bay is 1,663 square feet. So we're trying to give a variety of size to the downtown commercial space. I understand there's a need for commercial space. I don't want to focus on commercial space. I want to focus on apartments, as that's what I think is in more shorter supply in downtown and in Wahoo in general. So that's my focus for this project.
So this parking garage area is for the people
In the apartments only,
that live up,
in any of the apartments,
that live in any of the apartments?
I'm guessing.
What was the question? Sorry.
The garage parking is just
The
for
garage
tenants.
parking lot is for.
Just for the residents, correct.
I mean, how do they determine which tenants get first come, first serve? Or
There'll be
is it
reserved
something that
stalls.
They can pay for?
There'll be reserved stalls specific to the resident that wants them, so,
So they'll just pay a little extra for
Just a little bit.
covered parking?
correct.
I guess my initial thought is, I mean, the first rendition was all commercial.
Yep.
On Linden, and now we are.
On Fifth Street.
Fifth Street, excuse me, now we're just 2 bays of commercial, and the rest is a parking garage. And I don't know if that was really, our original vision of the project, so that has changed, in my mind, quite substantially.
Yeah, just about 3 bays, and I think the best location for commercial bays is on the street corner, again, across the street from Smith Park, and also still on Fifth Street. I mean, in between the bank and the apartments is a road, a line of egress and ingress. So I think keeping with that same cadence of car traffic, I'm more reluctant to put commercial close to that. Also, a reason for going down to 2 commercial bays is the vacancy loss and hold that I'll have to supply for the commercial bays. Again, back to my initial plan, I need more apartments to supply the commercial space to build them and to maintain them. So the less apartments I'm allowed, the less commercial space I can produce. So that's why my initial plan was to request for parking to be allowed on Beach Street and 4th Street to supply additional apartments to take care of the load of the additional commercial bays that was my initial design. But since that is not acceptable and denied, this is the way it financially needs to be allocated. And it has been harped to me by quite a few individuals to focus on parking. And I think this gives a great variety of parking downtown: covered parking, reserved parking, garage, like individual garage parking, as well as surface parking. Again, this is all private property, so it will be for the residents only, but the schematics on Beach and 4th Street, again, supply 42 stalls, if built how this is planned for the city of Wahoo. And currently, Beach has parallel parking, which I believe is about 11 stalls on Beach Street today. So I'm still trying to do the best of all. Can't do it all, but I'm trying to come up with positive and impactful solutions to take care of housing, to take care of safety, take care of parking, as well as supply some sort of commercial space for growing businesses to plug into and grow here in Wahoo. So this is, I believe, a good collaboration of the restrictions and what my plan is and what my vision is to create on the site.
When, we've talked about this being commercial property. What do you consider commercial? Is it retail? Is it service? What's your focus there?
I mean, it's the market, it's what the market says. So, I mean, I'm just going to create a white box for someone to, do their own TI. It's not for, I'm just going to manage it. I can guide someone, to what it should be or what I want it to be. But it's going to be a white blank canvas for someone that has opportunity to plug into it.
Okay. So you're not locked into anything at this point?
Not right now. I mean, I'd like to. I mean, it'd be nice to get a lease in place before I get
Yeah.
financing pulled and all that jazz. But today I do not have anything. I mean, I don't have a solidified project yet, so I'm just trying to hammer out these details so I can go to market and find a good, leaser for the space.
If memory serves me right, a lot of discussion this summer was spent on the fact that we're modifying commercial to allow some housing. We wanted the commercial on Fifth Street to help support the housing. With that in mind, this version really doesn't support what was talked about this summer, in that instead of, 5 or 6 bays or whatever we had, now we're down to 2 bays. To me, that's a fairly substantial change from where we're at. And it's not commercial bay, it's a parking stall. It's a indoor parking, and I'm struggling with that.
Okay.
How many apartments did you have before in the last iteration of this? Remember how many beds you had? Beds, I guess that's what
It was
like 78.
it was around high 60s, low 70s, something like that. I forget.
So essentially, I mean, we're keeping the same number of apartment units. What's happened is we've sacrificed commercial space for parking space. Which I understand, because he told me he's gotta find a different way to park. So
That's correct.
I understand where you're coming from with that, but I'm with Stu. I'm not excited about giving up that block of space. And again, it's not, I understand the space isn't being used now, so we're not losing anything other than the whole idea was, if we're giving up part of downtown to a project, there's parts that we want to protect at the same time, and turning that into a parking spot or parking space is rough, but.
I'm trying to find a good balance of all. I've been given a lot of problems, but I'm coming up with a balance of solutions. So, again, right now it's a 4-year vacant grocery store. There is another iteration that can come if it's not liked, but it will be, if the apartments go away, then something else has to go away. So, I mean, the way this could go could be less of a designing project, and it could be just parking. So I think this is a great balance of trying to meet the needs of the parking without being on the street, supplying 2 large commercial bays. I mean, almost 2,000 square feet and 1,600 square feet. I mean, those are large spaces, brand new, as well as catering to the convenience and amenity of Smith Park, an elevator in the middle. So I'm really trying to make this a well accessible and versatile project while fitting the constraints and policies that are in place.
Well, and you mentioned wanting to find a balance, and I appreciate that, but your balance is never to reduce the amount of bedrooms, of beds, you're just reducing the amount of commercial bay, or am I seeing that wrong? Your original vision of having so many beds has really stayed the same.
No, I mean, it's come down around like 8 to 10 units.
Okay,
So we're down to 64 units. I think my last one, again, was like 69, 72, something like that.
okay.
Units,
Total number of beds is about the same.
About the same.
Pretty-
But
pretty close.
we've eliminated,
in previous renditions, I had needed like 118 stalls,
okay.
so.
So the units are down, bedrooms stay the same, which still affects parking. So that, the units are down more than what, parking regulations are.
Yeah, I appreciate your critiques. I mean, it's very helpful to me. But again, I have to find the financial balance of how to actually make this. So it's not just as easy as I want more commercial bays, I give you commercial bays. I have to pay for the commercial bays.
Yeah, so, seeing as how we just got this today.
Right.
I mean, for me, I can't say I'm opposed to it, but I'm still reluctant with it, but I would definitely want to take at least, the next 2 weeks since we just got this today and kind of vet it out, chat with a few people about it. So to me, I would say I'd put it back on the table.
I won't be here. I won't be here in 2 weeks. It'll be 4 weeks for me. So I'm
Okay.
expecting our third child. So.
Yeah.
Is this worthy of having the planning commission take a look at it?
Well, Travis, would you come up?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike.
You were the one that got the document, and I appreciate getting it out as soon as you could, distributed. Where do you feel this is in relationship to another review, at least, by planning and zoning?
Well, I mean, the original proposal, with this one has changed, obviously, from the time we did the amendment to the C1 to allow for ground level apartments and everything that was proposed, I guess, or put in front to kind of consider that amendment. So, I guess it's up to you guys. It has changed quite a bit from original. If it goes back to planning commission, for that review, that's your guys' decision. I think it's fair, though, to probably also kind of think about Mike as far as where he develops from here. What is the expectation for the commercial? What level or percentage, is there a percentage? Before this amendment came to us for a change for ground level apartments, it had been suggested previously and denied. So I know there was a lot of discussion regarding the whole project as a whole. What would be acceptable, what wouldn't be acceptable. So it's been discussed a long time. I guess what's in front of you now, is that something that's even gonna be considered? If it goes back to the planning commission, is it, is that something that would be acceptable if it comes back as a recommendation for approval? Or, if the planning commission says they have a recommendation for denial? What are we looking at here as a whole, as far as the applicant, I guess, would be my suggestion. We have several things here that are in front of us. Parking requirements, does it meet the parking requirements on premise? Obviously, with commercial bays, we don't have to provide the parking, it's on street. When you're looking at downtown commercial, C1, we only have a limited amount. That is the other thing I know that has been struggled with. If it becomes apartments, we're not gonna be able to expand downtown. So there's lots of factors here. I can't give a recommendation one way or the other as far as what is expected outside of what is before you now, I guess, so.
Well, we are talking about a 4-story structure.
If he meets the 45-foot height requirement, though, as long as he's below that, that is C1 downtown commercials, a 45-foot lid as far as height requirement. So that's the limitation he's gotta meet. So if he can meet the 4 stories of residential and be below that, then, that would be able to be permitted for.
maybe you can't answer this because it hasn't been, this part of it hasn't been discussed as much as it has been on the council's table. But does the planning and zoning feel, how strong do they feel toward the number of commercial bays? Or are they?
Yeah, I mean, it would be tough for me to speak for
Yeah.
the planning commission, but, just the conversations that was held within the planning commission as far as the amendment is concerned for the ground level apartments to be allowed, the original proposal included 5 commercial bays. That, I feel the amendment was kind of recommended for approval based off of that, because of the large area of commercial that is.
What was it? For some reason, if I remember right, that came in as not recommended, even though, I mean, by like one vote from the planning commission originally, that even with the plan we had before, they had recommended not approving it.
I was thinking that we had a recommendation for approval of the ground level apartments,
But not the parking?
but not the parking.
Oh,
If
I'm thinking back to even allowing the amendment to begin with.
Yes,
Mixing all of this together.
yes,
And that happened
Trying to
twice.
keep it
That
straight.
came to you one time, and then you sent it back, because then you wanted to better refine where, arguably within the C1 zoning jurisdiction, it should be allowable
yes,
to have
Right.
ground floor apartments, and that's then when the planning commission went back and said, on these streets, basically.
correct, yeah, the original amendment was recommended for denial for the ground level apartments based on what was proposed. And then it did come back, and they refined that to limit areas, abutting basically R2, and it was very restrictive. But I think as far as looking at the whole project, it was based on the conceptual that was presented at the beginning. But like I said, I can't speak on behalf of the planning commission if it was to go back to them.
Yeah, and I will say, based on procedure, not policy, because I'm not certainly talking policy in my chair, but on procedure, I think we have to table it, because this wasn't within 24 hours. Open Meetings Act requires that the packet basically be finalized within, outside of 24 hours, to give the public who might go and look and ask for a copy of the packet ample information in order to know whether they should or shouldn't show up and the like. And not suggesting more people would show up in support or against, but they didn't have the opportunity, so arguably it has to at least go to the next council meeting. Certainly understand the developer's not gonna be here, so it would be unfair to vote on it at the next meeting, so you
maybe
really are
after
looking
that
at a
is-
month.
I mean, or could possibly, we find out after tonight if that's even the same members on the council, which could cause another problem, because you're slowing things down for new people.
That's true.
I guess that would be my recommendation, looking at what Mike has redesigned here as far as proposal. Is it anything that you are even considering? If it is gonna go back to the planning commission, I guess, if I was standing in Mike's shoes, I would be looking at, what are you looking at having me redesign? What are you considering as far as the numbers? What do I need to bring back? If it's gonna go back to the planning commission for review, what do I have to go back to on the paper to present for next meeting, so we're not, having a lapse of time here?
And presumably what you mean is 2 sufficient? If it is, then why do we go back to planning commission? If it's not, is it 3, is it 4, is it 5? What is the total square footage of commercial space you're looking for?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the original concept that triggered the whole amendment process, if that's what you're looking for, or is it something else?
I guess truthfully, to me, when we had those conceptual drawings in the beginning, and it's commercial bays on Fifth Street, my mind is stuck on that. That, to me, is not a parking stall. Those are commercial units, and they should stay that way. And that's my feeling.
My only thought that I did keep sticking in my head is while we had seen that before, and that's why we're stuck on that, if this is the first time I saw this, would I be okay with it? And the reason I think about that is, Mike's right, if Mike decides to back out, say I'm not doing anything, and somebody else buys this and just plops a Starbucks right in the middle of it, we get one commercial structure on the entire end of town, because they bought the whole lot and they just have a big roundabout in it, and, there's nothing that says I don't wanna control what people are putting in there. but at the same time, I do wanna protect as much downtown as we can, so if we're giving up, again, if we're giving up the ability to put commercial on Beach because we're making that apartments, I hate giving it up on Fifth Street as well. But again, in fairness, I'm trying to not, if I just saw this project initially, would that be okay if I had known that we just lost 3 commercial bays?
Right, would I like it better?
Because it's not us,
Would
right?
I
It's
like
his
it-
project, not ours.
For sure. Would I like it better if there were 3? Would I like it better if there were 5? You know, what would be that triggering effect if you're seeing it for the first time?
I just, yeah, I'm all for, yeah, obviously, and it sounds like we have to, tabling it again and bringing it back up. And kind of kicking it around a little bit, because having just seen it for the first time, I just want to wrap my head around that, because I'm trying to think of it as, if this is the first time we've seen the project, instead of, well, we know what it used to be, and we hate to give that up, you know what I mean?
So, I mean, another perspective is you can see it as I pull the conditional use, which would remove 4 of the residential units on Beach Street. I don't need a conditional use. I move forward with a project that has commercial bays or not. So, just throwing that out there. Because this whole point of this whole year has been trying to do 2 things. Ask for a reduction in parking to fit a large amount of apartments, and then also ask for residential bays, or residential units to be on the first floor. So if I remove both of those things, I still could come up with the projects. It will not be the project that's in front of you, or anything close to it, but it will be a project that I'm satisfied with and happy to give to the community. So that's another thing that, we could travel that way. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Is that considered commercial if it's a parking garage underneath those apartment units, Travis?
The only thing our
housing
C1
units
says
above it.
is that ground level apartments are not allowed until we did the amendment where it says,
I know, but I'm saying, can second floor units be above a parking garage and be considered, because I thought they had to be above commercial units.
no,
That
there
would
wasn't
be-
anything.
It'd have to be a commercial use in the first floor. So a parking stall, a parking garage in the first floor wouldn't constitute a commercial use. It would be an accessory use to a residential use, so it wouldn't be allowed.
So that part of the building would have to be chopped
It'd have
off
to be,
above.
you'd have to put commercial bays or something commercially related on the first floor.
I know this would decrease less parking, but if we had more commercial bays, I would like to see them closer to First Bank and have it more contiguous with the rest of commercial, where now it's
Yeah, it's way at the end of the
kind of
block.
put out on the corner, but I know if you do that, you probably can't put parking in the corner. So that defeats kind of both sides of it.
Use these parking stalls on the street.
Mike, you had mentioned just 2 minutes ago a different version, and you went through it fast enough, I didn't quite catch it.
Yes, I mean, if we rewind the design or mix up the design a little bit, remove the 4 residential units on Beach Street, it could also be commercial, parking area as well.
Oh, okay.
Parking garage. So then you have an entire floor of parking garage.
I see.
Which Jobin's saying would be an accessory, so therefore it wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, with that, honestly, I need
Unless
more
it's
time
open
to
the
think
public to
about,
pay.
let's say hypothetically, it was, Stewart's Bank employees that want to rent out commercial space, not parking that is isolated to that residential structure. That may be different, right? Because that may be more commercial in nature, but I'd have to look through our definitions and everything to see if that would qualify as commercial or not. Right, so that anybody could rent out.
It's open to the public to pay a
Yes.
daily fee to park there.
Yeah, like a
Then
park
is
and
that
go or
commercial
something like
not?
that. I'd have to look if that meets our definition
But
of
if it's
commercial or not.
specific to apartments, then it's no longer commercial
Yeah, if it's
use.
specific to the apartments, it definitely is not commercial.
So and how does that work with what's gonna be on, well, in this proposal, that would be on Fifth Street with apartments above it? Would that be?
It's not commercial.
Well,
That,
that's what he's
He'd have to have
Yeah.
the commercial bays.
he'd have to have a commercial base there.
Okay,
Or, hypothetically, and I think that's maybe what Mike's pointing to, hypothetically, could a public-wide park and go type structure on the first floor of the entirety of Fifth and beach. Arguably, that wouldn't require a conditional use permit, and that's administrative with Travis. But I'd have to look, I'm not committing to that, I'd have to look to see what our definitions say, if that would qualify as commercial, quote unquote, or not.
Interesting.
Now, those numbers, if you did that, those numbers for parking stalls couldn't count towards your requirement because they're not specific to those residential. So it makes it hard then to get your numbers in for your required parking.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying right now, these 23 stalls that would be underneath the parking or covered parking couldn't essentially count towards residential.
Yeah, if it was like a park and go type structure, it couldn't count towards it because it's not exclusive to that use. Because hypothetically, then anybody from the public could use the whole thing up, and now all those residents have to go out on the streets and everything else, which is what the regulations are designed to prevent.
I mean, that wouldn't be the direction of this project.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So currently, right now, from what Joe was saying, this would not meet the commercial requirements.
This right here, no. I mean, what right here, the issue is there's two things. One, I need to think about and look into whether or not the parking garage stalls on Fifth Street, if that is in violation of our no ground floor residential on Fifth Street. Because Fifth Street didn't fall under the cup, right? The cup said only
Correct.
beach and the other street, right? Fifth Street, you can't get a cup for residential use of that. I'll tell you, I don't think though, my initial impression is that that's a violation because I think it was always understood or agreed that there'd be some use there, right? Which is ancillary to the other residential use, so I don't get as caught up in that. But I would get caught up if on Beach Street you put residential parking on the first floor of that, right? And then the residential structures above it, because then you have no true commercial in any way, right? Whereas at least this proposal kind of is attempting to meet the objective of having commercial on Fifth Street. End of the day, though, I think Travis is right. I think the operative question in my mind is less those kind of details and more, is that many square foot of commercial enough, or if it's not, how much more do you guys want? And then Mike having to assess, based on that, how palatable is that, what could he do, how does it change the plan, that sort of thing. And again, can't be voted on tonight, but then he would presumably a month from now come back and tell you where he stands.
So would that give us time to let this marinate a little bit, have discussion at the next meeting to generate some feedback from Mike? Is that reasonable?
And decide at that point whether it would have to go, I don't think it has to go back to planning. and
Doesn't have to, that's
zoning. I
entirely.
don't think
my
anything
question.
we do here has to go back.
I hate to send it back if we don't need
Yeah.
to, just for Mike's sake.
I don't want to slow it down for them anymore than we kind of dragged this out pretty far already.
So Bob,
We beat that dead horse.
put it back on the table?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to put it back on the table.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Roll call.
Warford,
Yes.
Reyes,
Yes.
Creachy,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Action items not requiring public hearing, approval of recommended cost of living adjustment for city of Wahoo employees. Melissa talked about this a little bit, not necessarily this part of it, but the item number 2, that we've had a big increase in our cost for insurance, and how does that affect the employee take-home type of thing. Met with the Finance Committee, and so there is a recommendation. I think Ryan's here to discuss it. Would like to have some comments from Finance Committee, and Stuart as the senior member on that, I guess. I don't know if you wanna go first, or?
Yeah, sure can. I mean, yeah, with, especially on the COLA, bearing in mind, we've got some pretty stout inflation figures, and we're trying to be sensitive to employees and trying to keep our pay scale intact. And we have watched the CPI. We've not pinned our numbers to that. I mean, even when we've had a consumer price index that's gone negative, the city has always done somewhat of a COLA. This time, when you have inflation or CPI 8%, that's whipped up, and it's probably historically on the high side. Hopefully it comes down. I'm trying to remember exactly where we're at. I think we did a lot of figuring, and I guess with Ryan and Melissa, we came up with some kind of a formula. I'll let you go through that.
You guys can tag team this
Right.
discussion.
Well, on the cost of living adjustment, the decision, working with the finance committee was that 4.5%
Yeah.
for all employees except for the highest earning employees were getting a 3.5% increase. So, and which makes sense because, the impact, right, is more on those, the employees making, less on the lower end of the pay scale. So, as Stuart had said, historically, we have tried to be close, not tied to that consumer price index, but last year, I believe we went with a 2.5. The year before that, it was a 0.4% cost of living, right? And so the city still moved forward with a 1.5. It's a hard time for everyone right now in these historic inflationary times. So it's very much appreciated from me and from Melissa, what the city council from the finance committee was willing to offer to our staff. And I think we went through a large process of doing a comparability study earlier this year, and did some wage adjustments due to comparisons. Not everyone got a raise, right? But we raised those that were maybe under in comparison to our peers in our array. And so, I think we went through a lot of work to do that. It would be a shame for us to fall behind by not at least keeping up with maybe what the other communities are doing. As Melissa looked through the other communities, for anywhere from 3 to 5%. So we're right in line with what most communities are doing for a cost of living adjustment.
So from that standpoint, the recommendation is 4.5% COLA, but everybody but the utility manager and city administrator, 3.5.
And they're okay with that, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that, I make a motion to approve the cost of living.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on item 1? Roll call.
Creachy.
Yes.
Raffle.
Yes.
Warford.
Yes.
Booth.
Yes.
Ideas.
Yes.
Nagel.
Yes.
Okay, number 2, approval of contract with Medica for health insurance for the city of Wahoo employees for the term from December 1st, 22 to December 31st, 23.
Yeah, that's the hard part. I mean, we got the bill with, what was it, 43%?
Right. We're
Yeah.
currently with
Increase.
Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they wanted a 43% increase of our premium.
Astounding.
And as you guys recall, we pass on currently for employees 19% of that premium to the employees and the remainder of the city. And so it was not within our budgetary means, especially on the city side, to be able to compensate for that kind of increase, not to mention the cost that would be, insurmountable for a lot of our staff. So that wasn't really an option, renewing with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Melissa did a great job, and like any situation, I as the man get to sit up here and talk to the hard work that Melissa did. So, she did a great job on this, and really looked out for our staff and employees, worked with Innsbro Insurance, found some different options. She, brought 4 to the finance committee that we want to move forward with, offering both a larger, a plan with a larger network
that both has a PPO and a high deductible or HSA plan, and then also a narrower network within that CHI network with a PPO and HSA plan, giving staff the employees some choices. They could go with that narrow network and see some savings on their premium.
Travel.
Yeah, and
If they won't
again,
be able to go to Saunders.
the Saunders is in that plan.
Okay, I figure with them being managed by Brian, maybe they wouldn't be. so
Right.
much,
We had a pretty quick discussion about that, because we
Yep.
said the same thing with Saunders.
Yeah, that was one of the number one concerns, was making sure that they were in it. So, not only would this plan, again, it's not entirely without some pain. It's going to be an increase to our staff with the one plan, the larger network that's comparable apples to Blue Cross Blue Shield. But I am very thankful to the what was proposed by the Finance Committee of increasing for the family side of this plan, the city increasing the percentage that they would contribute towards that premium, making it for a family a much smaller increase. So when you pair that with an increased cost of living, what we were really just going in our minds thinking for the staff, saying here's a cost of living, by the way, your health insurance premiums are going to eat that all up, and so that was what we really wanted to avoid. And thankfully and I think it's the right decision for the city council to make that move for the staff. And, we're in the same boat as every other employer. We have to be competitive with both our wages and our benefits to retain staff and to recruit new employees. So, I think these are both good decisions. Medica is a larger company. Some of you may be even more familiar than I am with them as an insurance provider. Obviously, we're used to that name brand of Blue Cross Blue Shield, but Medica has moved from, I believe, the north or the Midwest,
Moving this way.
moving into Nebraska. We're a newer market for them. Lots of other communities have moved to them recently due to the cost adjustments of Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I think this would be a good thing for us to implement. A bit of a headache for staff, right, whenever you change, but that's just the name of it. I do think one thing Melissa's really discussed having an interest in doing is looking at other options over the next year. Self-insurance options, really looking at it. The frustrating thing about this was we were told, in October, hey, here's your 43% premium increase, or switch companies. And so we had to make that decision like lightning speed. And so this was the right decision for now. I think taking a deeper dive into other types of options or self-insurances, even if we don't go that route, at least understanding it fuller is something we should invest our time in over the next year.
I do like the idea that this is a 13-month initial period too.
Yes.
Yeah. When I think last year the increase was nominal.
The last 2 years, it's been nominal.
Yeah.
And so we knew we were due for a rate increase, and I think Melissa even put into her budget a 20%, or maybe a 15 or 20% increase. So we were expecting something, just not 43%. So it's definitely hard hitting.
When I know a lot of time was spent within the constraints of what we're working with to make it be as least painful to the employee as possible.
Yeah.
And I think, you guys have come up with a good solution.
No, I appreciate you looking out for the employee. That's terrific. Appreciate that. I'll make a motion, we accept the 13-month Medica.
Second that.
insurance.
Okay. Good? Okay, any other questions? Roll call.
Rappel,
Yes.
Creachy,
Yes.
Warford,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Ideas,
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Okay, number 3, thank you, Ryan, I know you need to leave. Number 3, approval of ordinance number 2405, renewal of conditional use permit for Shane Hake Automotive Service and Repair at 859 North Maple Street. This is an ordinance, so we need to introduce and consider waive if it moves forward. I don't believe we've had any issues at this point.
Both of these ordinances that are on here tonight are just more of that cleanup. So
What's the length of this one for Shane? Is it 2 years?
I would,
Or is
yeah,
it 1 year?
I believe it's 2 years.
Motion to approve the,
Well, we need to introduce an ordinance.
I would introduce the ordinance.
Second. Motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Roll call on motion to waive.
Okay.
It is 24 months, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
This is for Shane Hayes. right?
Shane,
Yeah, Shane Higgs,
Yeah, we haven't had any
2405.
complaints up to this point with that.
Okay. Roll call on the motion to waive.
Krejci,
yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Warford,
Yes.
Boop,
Yes.
Ideas.
Yes.
Grapple,
Yes.
Okay, final reading of the ordinance. Roll call.
Krejci,
Yes.
Warford,
Yes.
Boop,
Yes.
Grapple,
Yes.
Ideas.
Yes.
Nagel.
Yes.
Okay, number 4, same process, renewal of conditional use permit, Coleman Clinic, 754 West 9th.
Not all,
Child Care Center.
yeah, Everyday Adventures. is the-
It's the old Coleman.
Yeah.
So again, introduction of ordinance and
Any
Anything-
complaints on that one, Travis?
We haven't had any complaints. It seems like, initially when they first operated in that location, there was some parking or some drop-off concerns. We haven't had any of that since, so I think those have all been addressed, taken care of.
I think most people use the parking lot.
Motion to introduce?
Second?
Motion to waive the 3 readings?
Second.
Thanks for making me easy.
roll call on the waive the 3 readings.
Warford,
Yes.
Ideas.
Yes.
Boop,
Yes.
Krejci.
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Grapple,
Yes.
Final vote on ordinance 2406, roll call.
Warford,
Yes.
Ideas.
Yes.
Krejci.
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Grapple,
Yes.
Boop.
Yes.
I don't have any comments or items not on the agenda. How about council? Seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.